Hey everybody, I am joined right now by Cinta De Oro. You know him from his career as Sin Cara and Hunico in WWE. We're going to be talking about his career up to this point, his future plans. First things first, you have a new name, Cinta De Oro. Tell us about what went into the name. What kind of, does it have any personal meaning to you? Any historical context? Just tell us about what you've been up to.
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me today, brother. Yeah, well, Cinta De Oro was a legend here in Ciudad Juarez, El Paso, back in the 80s and 90s. And then unfortunately, he passed away in March of 2016. He was a good friend of mine. I used to watch him when he was a little kid. There's a very historic date. In November 1st of 1987, I was 10 years old. And he wrestled Rocky Star for the mask versus mask. That's considered like the greatest match here in the border. And Cinta De Oro beats Rocky Star for the mask. And I remember as a little kid, all of us were like crying and we had all kinds of emotions because those were the two biggest idols of wrestling in La Frontera. And then as I became a professional, he became like a mentor to me. Him and Cinta De Oro and Cinta de Plata became very good mentors of mine. And so when he passed away in 2016, I came to his funeral, went back to work on a tour. And then I remember in 2017, I ended up making a mask in honor of him. I don't know if you saw it, but I was wrestling with a mask with a stripe on. I did a fusion of Sin Cara with Cinta De Oro in honor of him. And I used to wear it when a lot of the times on television and events that I started. So when I started doing that, and then when I ended up leaving the company, I didn't have it. To be honest, I never thought that I would become Cinta De Oro. I have a very good relationship with his family, with his kids. And I remember when that happened, I got a call from social media for WWE to ask me what name I was going to use so that they could change my social media to that name. And I remember, I have 90 days. Let's just and I said Cinta De Oro just right out of the bat. And then that same day that I told them that, they changed my Instagram account to Cinta De Oro, and it became like this crazy news everywhere. Like, oh, now Sin Cara is becoming Cinta De Oro, and then like a lot of like commotion started happening in the border. Like people were like, oh, why is he using the name now and this and that? And my main thing is that his kids, I spoke with his kids, Mm-hmm. We had a meeting, we talked a little bit about the idea, and they were all for the idea of me, portraying Cinta De Oro and not letting the legacy of the name, pass on and continue. So in my case, it's like in honor of him, letting people know who he was and what he accomplished. He never left because he had family, he had kids, so he never went to Mexico City, never went to other places. He always was a local wrestler, and it was his choice. It wasn't because he wasn't good. He was an amazing worker, amazing wrestler. A lot of people that I spoke with from that era say that he was just great, but he never really wanted that, that light in his career. So for me, I'm doing this in the sense in honor of him, to keep the legacy alive, and people that didn't know who Cinta De Oro was, now they can go online and check out some videos that are there of those matches.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, there is a photo that I did find. If anybody searches your name, it's you still as Sin Cara, but you have like the gold stripe over the face, and you're wearing a gold jacket with the hood up.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a very fitting and a touching tribute. But I did want to talk about any appearances you have coming up, because it's been a little quiet other than the name. I do want to mention you will be part of Qatar Pro Wrestling's Super Slam 3. That's next year. What are your thoughts about going to Qatar? You've traveled all around the world with WWE, but have you ever been anywhere as cool as Qatar? Because it's not somewhere that gets wrestling very often.
I know. Yeah. Well, I was supposed to go to Qatar this past year. I was supposed to go to I was supposed to go to London to the Comic-Con to do a lot of different appearances. But then with the pandemic, everything stopped, And then right now, I think things are still a little like in a pause, because I've got to I have some calls from promoters letting me know that they want to do some shows, and then I had a date for May, and then they called me yesterday. Hey, we're gonna have to move it till June because of the the rules or the I guess whatever is going on in every city. So it's one of those things that it's very uncertain right now. But I've been getting a few calls from promoters that want to work with me, but right now, like for them, it's very uncertain. So obviously, since they don't know when the show's going to happen, then I have to be also in a standby in that sense. But I'm doing other projects. That's the main thing. I keep keeping myself busy, doing other projects, doing other things, and traveling a little bit. Keeping myself in that mindset of like, when everything gets back into the swing of things, I'll be able to do what I love, which is wrestle. But for me right now, it's the main focus is keeping myself healthy, keeping my mind healthy, my soul healthy, and just be ready for when the time comes for me to start working and wrestling. And right now, the only people that are wrestling is the people that have television. There's no live events right now for anybody. And once everything starts going, people are gonna start going to the events because they want to go out. They want to actually be there now. They've been at home for so long that they actually are going to start coming to the arenas and the gyms or the places where we get to wrestle. So I'm just excited for the future, and hopefully everything gets back in the swing of things, not just for me, but for everybody.
Mm-hmm. What's the delay been like for you? Because you got your release, it wasn't immediately before the pandemic. Like some talent had to deal with that where it was like, okay, I'm in the clear, and then there's no events. How have you mentioned having to delay events, but how have you been keeping busy and keeping in ring shape?
Well, with I have friends that have a ring here, and we go train. With them, I take my kids, or sometimes if they're not training, I'll go in the afternoon and take my kids and keep myself, bumping a few times here and there, and keeping myself in that sense busy. But obviously, me and my brother started a couple businesses, when during the pandemic, and then now we ended up that wasn't what we wanted to do. Now we're gonna go into a different business. We're trying to hopefully everything works out. A solar company. That's what we want to do. So I'm excited about that. Working with my brother and other projects, and also I'm writing a couple books right now. I'm doing different projects here and there, and just keeping myself busy for doing other things outside wrestling. I'm doing a promotion for a local bank here in El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
Also do commercials for them, for the radio, for television, publicity, and just keeping myself busy and keeping my image out there.
Okay. Yeah, that was what I was going to ask next. I know Kevin Fertig is a realtor now, and he's really gained some popularity and stayed out there because he portrays the real estate champion. He's like, and the title. So
Yeah.
Is that something that, like, when people come to you, or do they already know, like, hey, I'm going to get, like, this is Sin Cara or this is Cinta De Oro, like they ask for it? Or is it kind of like you give creative feedback and how you can not only keep yourself out there, but how you can, really bring more eyes to their respective products in a creative way?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, when I've done a commercial, when I see a commercial, maybe I don't know if they think that I'm gonna be at the bank or not. I don't know how sometimes, because sometimes people think that way. And I was doing publicity for another solar company here in El Paso, and we ended up not parting ways after a while, and that was it. But it was funny because I don't know how people perceive certain things, but sometimes people think that I don't know, they thought that I was going to be in the roof putting their solar system, they're doing this and doing that, but it's not going to be me actually being out there. But obviously I work in construction when I was younger, and I've done a lot of things, and I'm not afraid to get up in the roof and do things and do that, but the idea for me is to be like the face of the company, of me and my brother's company, and put it out there. Once I start wrestling, I think it's going to be a lot more easier for me to be able to have more notoriety out there, of being out there, because this is what I love. Because sometimes I get messages like, oh, so you haven't wrestled. So what are you doing now? And things like that. Or I'm like, well, everybody is at a halt right now. You know, most of the wrestlers are older. They don't belong to a company. We have to wait till everything ends to be able to, start working and having more, traveling here and there, doing things that we love. And for me, I'm just trying to keep my image out there and doing other things like, like with the bank, like now with the solar company, me and my brother, and just letting people know that there's life, outside wrestling for me too.
Hey, I will have firsthand knowledge. I've said it plenty of times throughout this past year. If you're not spending money on travel, most homeowners are putting it back into their home. So you're absolutely doing the right thing. Like we've done, I have my green screen behind me because this is one of the rooms that's in progress. But I mean, getting home improvement projects done, like putting more money into your house because it's become such an important part of everybody's life this past year. So you're definitely you're taking it in the right direction with the solar.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do. You're trying to, obviously, I've learned a lot about myself also this past year, that I could, do a lot of things, and that I could survive outside WWE, because sometimes as performers, that's the hardest part for us, because I was there for 10 years, and then you become used to a certain system all the time, or having that security economically. And then so sometimes we don't want to lose that, and we don't want to take the choices, because a lot of people depend on us. And I understand that sometimes you don't want to take that risk, but a lot of people that are in there still, and I get it. But for me, I learned a lot about myself in this past year, that I can do other things, other projects, that what I have in a sense built throughout my years. Now it's time for me to actually use who I am to do other projects, other things in my life. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep myself busy in that sense, and let people know that no matter what you want to do in your life, you have an opportunity, to succeed. It doesn't matter who says no, or they cannot determine that, only yourself. And that's why I took that leap of faith in that sense of like asking for my release. It wasn't an easy choice, but I had to. I was just tired of the same situation. I was just, not happy anymore. And now I have control of my life, of what I want to do, of what I want to accomplish. And I think I'm happier than ever right now in this part of my career and my life. And obviously we all went through this crazy year of pandemic, and a lot of the people that we love are not here anymore. And it's tough and it's hard, but then we have to learn to appreciate what we have. We cannot, keep ourselves in that mindset of like, oh, what am I going to do? And I lost this and I like that. I cannot do nothing about that anymore, but I can do more now that I know that there's a bright future out there for me. And that's what I'm just trying to do, keep myself busy, keep wrestling, keep doing what I love. I'm not retired, because a lot of people ask, are you retired? I'm like, I'm not retired. Pandemic hit, and I'm just waiting for an opportunity to open up and continue my career.
Yeah, and you're betting on yourself. I don't think anybody can find anything wrong with that. Nothing but respect.
Thank you.
I want to jump back for a little bit, because you just mentioned you were with the company for almost 10 years, and really everybody, a lot of the audience's first glance at you was in the Sin Cara versus Sin Cara, the imposter feud. Can you just talk a little bit about how that was pitched? I know the stories out there that the original Sin Cara was under a suspension and you played the character, but can you just talk about how that storyline was originally pitched to you, and maybe how different the finished product was compared to the initial idea?
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to go back a little bit. I debuted in Mexico as Místico in November 21st of 1989 in Ciudad Juárez. My first wrestling was Místico. So what happened, I ended up having changing my name, because in 2004, Consejo Mundial ended up registering the name and gave it to this guy that was Sin Cara in WWE. So then I had to, there was a lot of things went on during that time. I had to change my name to Incognito, because a lot of companies wouldn't, or a lot of promoters wouldn't let me wrestle, because then they wouldn't send this kid to wrestle over there with them or whatever, everything that was going on, because he became this huge star in Mexico, and so everybody wanted him to work with them and go everywhere. So then when I got to WWE, I was there in FCW already for like a year, and then they hired him as this new coming star from Mexico. They made all this, press conference in Mexico and just all the lights with him, and they was going to be the next Rey Mysterio or whatever. So then during that time, I had a meeting with Hunter in FCW where I told him the story about the Mysticos. It wasn't that in their mind something came and like, oh, we're going to do this story. Like they invented that story. No, it was because I told them what had happened in Mexico. So then when he got suspended, they got the idea of bringing me in as the imposter and actually continuing like the real life story in Mexico, make it into a feud over here in WWE. So that's why when he got suspended, that's when I got the call and they told me, hey, we want you to come up. But they didn't tell me exactly what they wanted to do to this story. Ended up like I was there for a month. And when he got the suspension, when he got back from suspension, that's when I told me that they wanted to do a feud with me and him. But I think the feud was culminated very soon. It wasn't for me. It was to build him up. That's why he ended up finishing it off in Mexico City and on a SmackDown television. And I'm not gonna say names, but I know that there was a couple meetings during that day where one of the agents told them that they were making the wrong decision about taking the mask off me. It's like, you're taking the mask out of the wrong wrestler. Mm-hmm. The one that should lose the mask should be the other guy. And I'm not gonna say names because out of respect, but he was the one that actually told me that. He said that, and I'm very grateful, because he believed in me all that time that I was in WWE. He's a legend also. He's a legend in the business. And he told me, he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I told them I fought for you. They don't want to listen, and that's it. So I ended up leaving the name. They gave it to him. I went off on an injury. I tore my ACL, so I was out for almost a year. And during that year, he would always he was wrestling, but he was always either hurt or something was coming up. And I remember when I came back, a few weeks when I came back, we had a tour in Mexico. I was wrestling Tyson Kidd. Tyson Kidd was coming off an injury also. We were working together, and then he was working Del Rio in Mexico. And I know that the reports that they said, he was a guy that didn't have a heart. He was a performer that wasn't, up to the challenge and all kinds of stuff. That was a reports inside WWE. So then I think 3-4 weeks later, I get a call at home on a Thursday from the office asking me if I wanted to take over Sin Cara. And I was like in shock. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, like they're done with this guy. They don't want him anymore. Are you willing to take over the character? And I was like, let's do it. My first reaction, because everything that had happened, in Mexico, the names, and now he was going to be the opposite way, something that had been taken away from me. God had now given me divine justice in that sense. So it was pretty crazy, man. It was pretty crazy how everything came about, but I wouldn't change anything, to be honest, anything in my life, because that has built my character and the person that I am now to be able to, talk to people and appreciate what I have now. If everything would have been roses, like you wouldn't appreciate what you have, and I appreciate what I have. I appreciate my kids, my friends, everybody that's around me that I love, and I think that has taught me a lot.
Yeah, and to your point, the individual that gave you that advice or spoke up for you clearly was right, because you played the character for many, many years after that. Do you have a favorite match, if you had to point to one as that character, that you would say best represents your work in WWE, but maybe best represents just who you are as a wrestler, no matter what name you're under?
I think WrestleMania 32, when I got to get in there with Dolph, Miz, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, the ladder match, and Goldust. Goldust, Cody Rhodes. It was like I guess like my work that anything that I could do anything, all I just needed was an opportunity. If you see that match, I did a lot of like things that people never thought I could do. They were like, what? He can do that? I'm like, yeah, I can do that and more. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, I never got the opportunity to really showcase what I could really do. It was always, sometimes I would, putting the match together. I'm gonna do this, and they was like, oh, you can't do it because somebody else is gonna do it. I'm like, I don't care. Like, that's not my problem. They can't do it better than me. Like,
Mhm.
why do you have to why you have to limit my work just because somebody else, think that they can like let me wrestle, let me do what I love, and I think that was the hardest part for me in that sense. But if I really want to go back and say what something that people can really look at my work body of work in that sense, that's right there. I can do a lot of things, and I think I have still have a lot of years to go, and I can still perform at the highest level. I just won the opportunity to showcase my talent, and that's why I left, and that's why I'm here now, waiting for that opportunity, waiting for pandemic to end, to be able to perform for the people.
Do you like? I will say I've heard that comment from different people in recent months, but do you feel like that was just a WWE style of wrestling, or do you feel like that was uh, almost like putting a ceiling on a luchador? Because you made a comment not too long ago where you said, they don't care about Mexican talent. Andrade said similar. Do you feel like not being able to do those moves is because they more or less wanted you to fit like the WWE style of wrestling instead
No,
of no?
it's not about fitting. It's about not overshadowing their stars.
Okay.
That's the thing. Whoever they want to build, obviously they're gonna build, and obviously they want to protect those. And I think that was mostly the main thing for us, like in that sense. Like if you look at the talent now, like you can't tell me that Garza's not a good wrestler. You can't tell me that Carrillo is not an amazing wrestler. You can't tell me that Santos Escobar is not a wrestler. That Calisto, that Lince, all these guys that have amazing talent. It's not about the talent. It's about putting limitations to the talent, and it's not about styles. That's not true. Look at Ricochet. Ricochet does amazing things in the ring, all kinds of stuff, boom, boom, here and there. So it's about who they want to limit, in that sense. And then it's not me just saying that they don't care about Mexicans. How many Mexicans do you see in WrestleMania? Unfortunately, none.
Mhm.
Not one. Not one.
Well,
Not one.
the
Not
reason
one
I
Mexican.
ask is because you said that people were surprised by your body of work, and you were like, no, I could always do that, and it's like almost like that, you know coming back around, like there are limitations, and I don't know if that's because they have like the WWE match format, and it's like, okay, build build build, or like you said, it's about limiting what you can't do this because somebody else is going to do it later. And
Mhm.
actually, Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona said that on another podcast recently. He was like, you can't do a baseball slide because Ronda Rousey's going to do one, and it's like,
Exactly.
like where are you going to go with it? It's like you have these talented performers, but then
You limit them.
people are surprised by what you can do, and it's like, no, I can do that. So
Yeah, I can do that and more, but like I was saying, like at the end of the day, I was a soldier in that sense, following orders and what they told me, and I always fought for what I wanted to do in a match. There were some agents that helped me a lot, that would let me just go out there and work. They put no limitations on me when I was doing live events. Fit Finley was a person like that. He saw something in me, and he would just tell me, just take care of yourself. That's all he would tell me. Put this together, but take care of yourself, and then you're gonna have a great match. And he would let me be, and I would enjoy my work. I would enjoy what I was doing in the ring. But when you would get somebody with like, oh no, you can't do this because this and that, and they were just like, oh man. So what should I do then? Just go out there and get my butt kicked and just 1, 2, 3, and that's it. Like let me showcase my talent and who I am, and why people love the Sin Cara character. They love me because I would always give 110% out there. I would never put limitations on my work.
mhm.
They were the ones that put the limitations on my work, not myself. I wanted to always perform at the highest level all the time. And if they would ask me to wrestle 30 minutes every day, I would have done it. But I never got the opportunity to do that.
Mhm.
And the only time for you to get better, it's in the ring. And if you don't have that continuation, every time you go back and you wrestle on television after 3 months, you're hesitating. You're like, because you don't have that confidence anymore. It happened to a lot of the talent now. Metallic would wrestle like 4 or 5 days out of the week, every week, and then I only see him wrestle like once every 2-3 months. And I can tell that in confidence level, it's a little bit like shaky, and sometimes you don't do the things that you used to do it because you haven't done them in a while. So there's no continuation. And I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of us, that they were there for a lot of time and we would go television and sit down and catering, eat all freaking day, just waiting for an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get the opportunity, and then they're like, oh, you should have done this, should have done. Like, well, give me continuation so I can, have confidence, so that the moves that I usually do are crisp and have the timing that I should have, but you don't give me continuation. So that's tough, man. That's really tough.
Yeah. Hey, I certainly understand the frustration, and I will close on this. You said it yourself. You don't want to look back with anything. You wouldn't change anything. So, you got to this point because of your work. So, let's end on a positive. You have the life you have now because of your work in Mexico and your work in WWE. So, you do have those opportunities. Hopefully things change for the people that are still there, I guess, is the best way to put it. But
obviously, as a man of faith, I always hope for the best for everybody, not just for me, but for everybody, especially my friends. And I understand, like, if they have a lot of frustrations, but sometimes they don't have they don't want to say anything. They just close doors. They maybe they say things, but they don't really, they don't go out there and tell them. So if they're not gonna say it, I'm gonna tell them for them. I'm pretty sure that Garza's not happy, Carrillo's not happy, Kalin, all those guys are not happy there. No matter how much they try to portray, it's not true, because I lived that.
Mhm.
I've been through that. I know how it feels. I know how you feel when you're sitting down in catering and are being able to work. I know how you feel when you go to television and they don't use you. And all of a sudden, like, okay, what's gonna happen with me? Like, oh, talk to this guy, talk to that guy. So I get it. I understand that. But if you're not happy, then say something about it. Nothing's gonna change if you keep your mouth shut. That's the truth. And I'm saying this because Andrade came out and he said the same thing that I said. So then it's not me, it's not him. It's the system that unfortunately is not, doesn't have equality for everybody, and that's just sad.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. But I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. It was great learning about what you've been up to and your future plans. I hope we see you on television, whether you live in your area in Texas or we start seeing, maybe you'll get the social media attention from some of your commercials and
or maybe Nación Lucha Libre in Mexico. We don't know, maybe.
Running on a tease, but hopefully we see you back in the ring soon. I know we mentioned the Qatar Pro Wrestling, but again, Cinta De Oro, thanks very much for your time today.
Hey, thank you, brother. Stay safe.